What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Bucky here. And Bucky, there was some free agent dollars that got tossed around in this last offseason. Now, I thought just a couple weeks in, it's very early, but we can identify some teams that have yet to lose a football game that have getting some pretty good dividends from this offseason spending.
Yeah, when you invest a lot of capital in some of these marquee players, you want to make sure they play and uplift your team. Some of these 2-0 squads are definitely getting benefits from having those players come to the squad.
Yeah, maybe the most active team in the offseason is the Houston Texans. And you look at what they've done with that money. That's a lot of money they spent at some key positions, Bucky. But so far, I think you'd have to say this is money well spent. We start with the money they shelled out to Brock Osweiler. The Broncos chose not to do that. Now they're undefeated as well. But I think Osweiler, what he's done, look at the numbers. They're okay, around 500 yards, 3 touches, 3 picks. But I think he's stretching the field, and he's giving them a new dynamic element, especially with Will Fuller, a new addition through the draft. What he brings to the table, I think that's been a good signing for them.
It has been a great signing for them because he's a clear upgrade over what they had. Brian Hoyer showed in the playoffs that he couldn't get it done. Osweiler hasn't been perfect. He hasn't been flawless, but he's been very, very effective. He's pushing the ball down the field, using all the weapons that they have at their disposal. Because of that, I think this is a more balanced team and a more explosive team because you have a quarterback that can use all areas of the field.
Yeah, another addition they made, Lamar Miller. I think you can add him into the successful signing category as well. 189 rushing yards through a couple games, Buck. They gave him $26 million over 4 years. Good chunk of change, but I think that was a good addition as well. You get that running component to balance what you have now with Osweiler. This is a different-looking Texans offense, and I like it.
Yeah, I like it a lot. The one thing that I would say, not only with the marquee free agents that they brought in, Lamar Miller, you talked about Osweiler, but in the draft, they added a lot of speed on the outside. Braxton Miller, Will Fuller, you've talked about. Their ability to stretch the field vertically and horizontally has allowed them to be able to score more points. I like this Texans team. It's one of the teams that I'm beginning to think might have a chance to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good right now, those new additions. How about some more money well spent? Let's look at the New York Giants, undefeated football team, really invested heavily on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, the G-men have really gone all in and upgrading their defense. And when you look at what they've done, they've kind of changed the tenor of how they play. Physical, stout up front. And when the Giants have always been good, they've been big and physical up front. Talk about Snacks Harrison coming over there, Olivier Vernon. But what I like is in the back end, Janoris Jenkins being a big factor in that defense. He's a guy that, some would dispute whether he's a number one corner or not. But in that defense, he doesn't necessarily have to be because Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie can also do some of the weight. When you look at the stat line, 11 tackles, 2 breakups, had a field goal return for a touchdown. He has certainly come in and energized that back end, short of one of the biggest problem areas that they had in previous years, and has allowed that defense to get back on track. They're playing lights out on defense right now.
Their big ticket item was Olivier Vernon. And you look at the stats for him, don't get carried away. 2 starts, 5 tackles. Okay, ho-hum, maybe they overpaid. No, he has been outstanding, especially as a point-of-attack run defender. And you just look at it, Bucky. This defense was 24th against the run last year. They're 4th against the run right now. I thought that first game against Dallas, the way he held up against that very physical offensive line that they have, I thought that kind of set the tone for this season, along with those other mates he has up front. I think Olivier Vernon, Janoris Jenkins, 2 nice additions in free agency. Big ticket items, Bucky, but so far they've delivered.
Yeah, they absolutely delivering, paying big dividends. And what I like about Olivier Vernon, I believe he has helped Jason Pierre-Paul kind of rediscover his game. You now have a pair of bookends that you can use to attack the quarterback. You have Snacks Harrison on the inside. This team has changed a lot. The G-men are no longer the pushovers on defense that they were in previous years.
All right, AFC North looks like it's, again, one of the best divisions in football because the Baltimore Ravens are playing better football. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals, we know what we have with them. We know the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Ravens, and they made some additions in free agency, maybe the most cost-effective, Mike Wallace, former Pittsburgh Steeler, is kind of floundering around in his career. Joe Flacco loves to push the ball down the field, and Mike Wallace, that's what he does. You see the numbers there. 3 touchdowns already through 2 games. He's really paid off. 2 years, $11.5 million, money well spent.
Money well spent. He's certainly been a bargain basement find for the Baltimore Ravens. He has given them the vertical element that they lacked. They really struggled when their receivers got banged up a year ago. He's come in and given them the guy that can take the top off the defense. Also, he's become kind of a touchdown maker for them. So 3 touchdowns in 2 games. You have to like it if you're Joe Flacco, alleviating some of the pressure on Steve Smith to carry the passing game.
And they needed a center fielder there. Since Ed Reed's been gone, they've tried to find that guy, haven't been able to find him. They go out in free agency and they find Eric Weddle. And so far, through a couple games, Buck, he's got a pick. He's got 10 tackles. I just think he's brought some stability to the back end of this defense.
Smart player, heady player, a guy that understands where the ball is going, makes plays on the ball. Sometimes you have guys in the back end that are ball magnets. The ball finds Eric Weddle. He has a knack. He's talented. I believe they needed someone in the middle that could really fill the role that was vacated when Ed Reed departed. Eric Weddle's been that guy, getting over top, seeing that interception. That is what he's done previously for the San Diego Chargers. He's adding that element to their defense in Baltimore.
Well, you see here, we've got the biggest return on free agency
Absolutely.
here up in the screen, Buck. There are some other big-ticket items, though. Maybe it necessarily hasn't paid off yet. I'm looking at the Washington Redskins and what they did. A bold move, go out there and pay Josh Norman all that money. But this one's tricky because he's got 5 pass breakups. I think Josh Norman's playing pretty well. But if you're going to spend all that money on the shiny new car, don't leave it parked in the garage, Buck. Let's let him go travel with some of these big-time receivers that they're playing against.
Yeah, I think part of the mismanagement of Josh Norman in Washington probably stems from the fact that they were really high on Bashard Breeland. They thought Breeland was come in, thought he would be a lockdown corner, maybe even challenge Josh Norman for the number 1 corner role. And I think what we've seen after 2 weeks, he's not quite ready for that. And so before I continue to let him flounder, I'm going to make sure that Josh Norman takes on the best guy. We saw Antonio Brown go for 126, 2 tubs. We saw Dez Bryant have another 100-yard game against him. I think now, going into these matchups, when they talk about their AFC rivals, particularly Odell Beckham Jr., he's going to have to be given the opportunity to travel with the number 1 receiver because he's their best cover corner on that team.
And if you're not going to let him travel, give Breeland some help on the other side there. Let's get some return on this investment with Josh Norman. Leave him alone and let him do his thing, but you got to help out the other guy. All right, Buck, that's our biggest return on free agency. We have tons of video content, by the way, on NFL.com/MTS video and YouTube.com/NFL. And be sure to subscribe to the audio podcast. You can find that on iTunes as well as NFL.com/podcasts.